Unexpected encounters. The shocking truth about fate and connection at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3. A cursed hour where shadows twisted and the air thickened with unspeakable tension. Just when the world should have been asleep, strange occurrences crept out from the darkness. Outside, an eerie mist rolled in, curling around lampposts like fingers grasping for warmth. In the small town of Millbrook, a chill swept through the streets, whispering secrets that would shake the very foundation of reality. Sarah's heart raced as she stepped onto her porch. The streetlights flickered, casting fleeting shadows, making her feel like she was being watched. She trembled, glancing around nervously. Was that a figure in the fog or just her imagination playing tricks? Time seemed to freeze, every second stretching into eternity. Suddenly, a low growl echoed from the depths of the alley, sending chills down her spine. She felt a tightness in her chest, as if the very air around her thickened with fear. Now it wasn't just the fear of what lurked in the dark. It was the feeling of connection, of being on the cusp of something extraordinary. The locals claimed that if you wandered outside at precisely 3 a.m., you might just encounter fate itself. It was said that the boundary between this world and the next blurred, allowing the long-lost to emerge. Ghosts? Longings? Whatever it was, the stories wrapped around Sarah's mind like ivy. Sound caught her ear. Footsteps? Closer now. Sarah squinted, heart drumming in her ears. Suddenly, a girl appeared, drenched in fog, her eyes glowing like lanterns in the night. "Help me," she whispered, a plea that pierced through the silence, sending shockwaves of urgency through Sarah. But who was this girl? What did she need? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Sarah's eyes widened as the girl stepped closer, fear and desperation etched in her face. "They're coming for me," she hissed, glancing back into the swirling fog. Her voice trembled like a dying ember in the wind. "You must help me." The urgency hung in the air like a thunderstorm waiting to break. Who was coming? Why her? Time seemed to pulse, every heartbeat ticking louder. In that moment, Sarah felt her own life unraveling and intertwining with the girl's. Questions spiraled. Fate? A chance encounter? The sharp sting of dread washed over her. It was one thing to wonder about fate, but another entirely to feel it knocking at her door. What awaited them both in the depths of the night? What forces were moving, unseen yet palpably real, as the minutes slid away? As Sarah took a breath, preparing to step into the unknown, a scream erupted from the shadows behind them, shattering the stillness. What were they about to unleash? The scream sliced through the air like a knife, a raw cry that echoed off the walls of the alley and sent a jolt of fear coursing through Sarah's veins. She spun around, eyes darting into the darkness, heart racing. The girl beside her recoiled, her body taut with dread, and for a moment, Sarah wondered if they were truly alone in this haunted hour. "What was that?" Sarah whispered, panic rising in her throat as she sought the source of the noise. The fog clung to her skin, damp and electric, as shadows shifted and flickered like restless spirits. The silence that followed the scream hung heavily, almost mocking them both, as if the night were waiting bated breath for something to happen. "Stay close," the girl urged, grabbing Sarah's arm with an iron grip. The intensity in her gaze spoke of urgency and unspoken fear. "We can't let them find us. Not here. Not now." Whoever they were, the nature of their threat felt significant, a dark weight pressing down on Sarah's chest. "What do you mean? Who's coming?" Sarah asked, fighting the tremor in her voice. The girl's answer hung in the air like fog, a secret just out of reach. The streetlights flickered again, casting their dim glow as the shadows danced mockingly. "I can't explain," the girl began, her voice dropping to a whisper as if even the air might betray them. "But I need your help. I'm not just running from something. I'm running towards something or someone." The implication swirled in Sarah's mind, but before she could piece together her racing thoughts, the alley erupted with sudden movement. figure shrouded in darkness, distorted and grotesque, moved with inhuman speed through the mist. They were here. Run! The girl shouted, tugging at Sarah's arm, and they fled down the street, legs pushing against the cold air. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind them, urgency mingling with terror. Sarah's heart thudded, synchronized with the urgency of their escape. As they rounded a corner, they burst into a clearing. The mist hung thick here, coiling around them like a serpent. The girl abruptly halted and turned to face Sarah. "You don't understand," she gasped, eyes wild. "You're part of this. Your fate is linked to mine. If they catch us," Sarah's pulse quickened. The weight of her connection to this girl bore down on her like a heavy mantle. Did fate truly intertwine their lives? The implications twisted within her, threatening to choke her. Part of what? She demanded, adrenaline fueling her voice. Suddenly, a shadow loomed behind the girl, monstrous and large, a presence that sent unyielding dread crawling along Sarah's spine. She saw the girl's eyes widen with pure horror, tearing Sarah from her thoughts. "No!" the girl screamed, throwing herself protectively in front of Sarah just as the shadow lunged at her. In that instant, everything froze. Sarah felt time stand still, the breath hitching painfully in her throat. She didn't know who or what this shadow was, but she knew they were teetering on the edge of something dark and almost alive. What had they awakened? What fate lay before them both? As the figure lunged closer, the world around them began to shift. Would they be able to face the truth hiding in the shadows? The girl's form blurred, absorbing the impact of the shadow, leaving Sarah standing paralyzed. The world around her fainted into the background. Time hadn't just slowed. It paused like a cruel joke at the edge of her comprehension. "Get back!" The girl's voice pierced through the silence, strained and fierce, even as she struggled against the shadow's grasp. Sarah could see it now, a creature birthed from nightmares, its skin glistening with an otherworldly sheen that absorbed the gasping light around it. Its claws glinted, elongated and deadly, probing closer to the girl. "Run!" she shouted again, her voice a desperate plea mingled with raw strength. With fear flooding her veins, Sarah finally responded. She bolted, her instincts screaming for survival, but her legs felt like lead. She darted sideways, brushing against the mist, wishing to escape, to vanish altogether. The sound of their pursuers echoed, a cacophony of chaos stamping urgency into her every stride. The alley led her into a labyrinth of narrow streets, twisting and turning, but the anxiety of being hunted turned each corner into a moment of dread. Shadows flickered, swirling at the edges of her vision. Every instinct warned her something lurked, hunting, waiting for its moment to strike again. "Don't stop!" the girl shouted, suddenly appearing beside her, breathless but resolute. Sarah couldn't understand how she had managed to break free, but there was no time for questions. They were drawing ever closer, the sound of their hoof-like footsteps mingling with a howling like wind before a storm. "Where are we going?" Sarah gasped, forcing her legs to move faster. She couldn't shake the fear that clung to her throat, a tight band squeezing tighter. "To the bridge," the girl responded, no more than a whisper under the howls of their pursuers. "Trust me, it's our only chance." They hurtled toward the old iron bridge, a relic of the city that had gone neglected, its edges rusted and worn. "We need to jump," the girl said, panic flashing in her gaze. "Jump?" Sarah echoed, doubt creeping in. "We have no choice." The harsh sound of laughter erupted from behind them, echoing through the alley like a twisted melody. Sarah's breath hitched. The shadows were gaining. "Now!" the girl yelled, taking a daring leap onto the bridge, and without a thought, Sarah followed, shock and surrender bypassing her reasoning. The cold metal met her feet with a freezing jolt, but there was no time to feel pain as they reached the center of the bridge. A disorienting fog curled around them, thickening the air like smoke. Sarah breathed in deeply, barely able to process her surroundings through the haze. The girl's hand gripped hers tightly, their fingers interlocking, a lifeline that connected their fates. Then, without warning, the laughter shifted into a guttural hiss, and the shadow emerged at the edge of the fog, dark and malevolent, emanating a dreadful energy. The girl turned, her eyes wide and luminous, as she absorbed something from within herself. "Listen to me, Sarah," she urged, her voice steady but threaded with tension. "What I'm connected to, it's within you. You have to unlock it. What do you mean? How? I can't explain now. But if we do this together, we can. The shadow lunged and reality distorted. A surge of air crackled between them, the air shimmering like heat waves. Jump again. Trust me. The girl shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. With hearts pounding, they leaped into the unknown, the darkness engulfing them as the shadow reached out. What awaited them on the other side? Could they truly unlock the potential hiding within Sarah and face whatever destiny intertwined them? Falling felt infinite, like the ground had disappeared beneath them, and the air was simply a thin curtain of uncertainty. The darkness wrapped around Sarah, chilling her to the bone. She couldn't even scream. Her voice was lost in the whirlwind. Then suddenly they landed not hard on the ground but softly, as if the air had shaped into a cushion just for them. It felt almost surreal, like waking from a dream but knowing you were still asleep. Sarah squinted against a blinding light, the fog receding like an exhalation. They were not on the bridge any longer. Instead, they found themselves on a vast open expanse of shimmering sand, stretching endlessly in all directions under a bruised violet sky. It didn't look like anywhere she recognized, but there was something eerily familiar about its surreal beauty. Are we safe? She managed to whisper, her voice trembling. Not yet, the girl replied, her breath still heaving. Worry etched deep into her features. This place is just a transition, a liminal space between our world and theirs. Whose world? Sarah asked, unease creeping back in. That shadow. It doesn't belong here. It's looking for something, it always has. And now it knows we're here. The girl's gaze darted around, scanning the horizon as if expecting something to emerge from the dunes. What do we do? Stay close to me. I can feel the connection growing. The girl closed her eyes, whispering something that unraveled in the wind. Sarah's heart raced. She should have been terrified, but she couldn't look away from the girl standing beside her, determination radiating from every pore. But then the ground trembled. A low rumble echoed, like distant thunder, but it wasn't distant. It was approaching. Sarah's pulse quickened and she turned, catching a glimpse of movement in the distance. Shadows twisted at the edges, forming into shapes that defied logic. They slithered closer, undulating and whispering in a language she couldn't understand. What is that? Sarah's voice shook, panic threatening to overwhelm her. We can't let them reach us. We have to unlock what's inside you, Sarah. How? She felt a lump form in her throat, the crushing weight of doubt pressing down. I don't even know what we're facing. Trust. The girl's words were cut off as the first of the shadow-shaped creatures broke through the sand dune. It surged toward them, blackened eyes glinting with malice. The sight sent a wave of dread crashing over Sarah, leaving her paralyzed once again. With a surge of desperation, she squeezed the girl's hand tighter. I can't do this. I don't know how. The girl turned, her eyes fierce and unwavering. You are more powerful than you realize. Let the fear go. Channel it into something greater. Feel it. A vivid sensation shot through Sarah, igniting instincts that she didn't know existed. She felt a warmth building within her, a flicker of something real amidst the terrifying shadows. Now, the girl shouted, and as if rehearsed, Sarah closed her eyes and reached deep inside herself. The energy flowed through her fingers, igniting the air with a palpable charge. The shadows hesitated. They sensed change. But the girl's voice morphed into something far more urgent. Focus, Sarah. We need to find the source. Deep down, a truth emerged, whispering back to her. What if everything was connected? What if her fear could be transformed into defense? Sarah opened her eyes to find the source swelling, a fiery light glowing at her core. I can feel it, she screamed, and as the shadows approached, she raised her hands, unleashing whatever it was that had detonated within. Then, chaos erupted. The very air split, and the shadows shrieked. The sand roared as blinding light poured forth. She wasn't just fighting, she was becoming part of something greater, and for the first time, she felt alive. But just outside the light's reach, the remnants of the shadows coiled and writhed like an angry serpent, seething with raw energy, preparing to counterattack. What awaited them on this treacherous battlefield? Could Sarah maintain her newfound strength, or would the shadows tear apart their hard-fought connection? The shadows recoiled, but only momentarily. They twisted and pulsed like dark flames, hungry for the light that Sarah had unleashed. She could feel their anger, an unsettling vibration buzzing in the air. But within her the glowing warmth fanned into a fire, spreading through her veins. This was power, her power. "Sarah!" the girl shouted, her voice strained. "Hold it steady. You must guide the light." Sarah nodded, gritting her teeth, her mind racing. How could she control this? What did it even mean? The shadows hissed, darting forth with renewed aggression. They lashed out like whips, targeting the light she dared to produce. "Push back." The girl's command was sharp, pulling Sarah from her moment of doubt. Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself. The warmth coursed through her, and she envisioned it as a bright shield. She concentrated on pushing the light outward, willing it to expand, willing it to protect them both. But as she did, the shadows surged, their forms morphing into twisted shapes, faces, claws, and other grotesque figures that clawed at her sanity, each one a reminder of her deepest fears. "Fight it, Sarah. Don't let them in." The girl's voice now had an edge of urgency that sent chills down Sarah's spine. Right at that moment she felt it. A web of memories started to push through the veil of her mind. Images flashed before her, moments she wished she could forget. Isolation. Rejections. The loneliness that so often stalked her. All that raw emotion fueled the shadows, and chaos climbed higher. "Channel what you fear," the girl cried, and it struck Sarah like lightning. Those were not just monsters, they represented everything she had been running from. With a fierce resolve she focused on her pain. She transformed it, molding her fear into raw energy. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she felt the glow intensify. The shadows howled, inching back for the briefest of moments. Then, right before her eyes, the shadows twisted and contorted. Sarah's heart raced. She wasn't winning. She was amplifying their very essence. "Sarah, you've got to aim for their core. Find the heart of the darkness." She steeled herself, zeroing in on the darkness that surged toward them. It pulsated, a center of swirling malice. With a determined shout, she thrust her hands forward, and her inner light exploded outward. The impact was beyond anything she had imagined. A wave of brilliance cascaded, merging like a tidal wave crashing against an obstinate shore. Shadows shrieked, the sound cutting through her like glass. The ground quaked as the light battled against their form, illuminating their terror. But as the wave rushed through, visibility faded briefly, draping her in silken darkness. "Hold on, Sarah." She heard the girl's voice, muffled but ever present. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. Was this the end of the battle? Or just another beginning? When the light returned, it revealed the shadows in chaos. They flailed, caught in a vortex of light and shadow. But from the center of that maelstrom, something dark emerged, a shape more massive than the others, creeping forward with unmistakable intent. What is that?" Sarah gasped, dread knotting in her stomach. "That's the gatekeeper," the girl replied, dread filling her tone. "It demands a sacrifice for every breach into our world." For the first time, Sarah felt true fear, a foreboding whisper that clawed at her senses. "Your sacrifice? Or mine?" the girl murmured, her eyes wide with despair. "Why do we have to choose?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because the darkness needs balance. And you hold power within you that can fill that void," she answered, shifting back and forth, the tremors beneath her feet intensifying. Sarah's mind raced. She had a choice to make, a connection strong enough to either heal or destroy. But which path would lead them to safety? As the ground throbbed and the shadows raged, she realized. The fate of both worlds rested on the weight of her decision. What was she prepared to sacrifice for survival? She felt time slipping away, the shadows beckoning and their hunger growing. Would she unleash her own darkness? Or would she protect the glimmer of hope that flickered within her? And in that haunting moment the shadows lunged forward, and the girl stood beside her awaiting her choice. What would Sarah decide? The answer loomed like a dark cloud above them, heavy with consequence. The air crackled with tension as shadows writhed, swirling like storm clouds thickening on the horizon. A palpable urgency clawed at Sarah, a race against time and fate. She felt the darkness closing in, a weight pressing on her chest, making it hard to breathe. "Think, Sarah," the girl urged, her voice a desperate whisper. "You must choose. Now." Looking into the depths of the chaos, Sarah felt a pull towards the shadows, an unshakable connection, as if they were part of her. Her heart pounded violently, a signal of the brewing storm within. What had she been missing all along? What truth was waiting to unfold? The gatekeeper inched closer, an embodiment of pure terror. Its twisted features shifted in the dim light, eyes like black holes boring into her soul, a maw wide enough to swallow her fears whole. Choose, it hissed, its voice like gravel being ground beneath heavy boots. Sarah locked eyes with the girl. What if I don't have to sacrifice anyone? The words tumbled out, fueled by hope and desperation. The shadows paused, as if considering her suggestion, their movement wavering ever so slightly. It doesn't work that way, the girl exclaimed, fear mingling with frustration. You can't just wish it away. Watch me. Sarah shot back, her mind spiraling. What if she could absorb the darkness instead? What if her power could become a bridge rather than a barrier? All that fear, the loneliness, the pain she had endured, what if she turned it into something else? A flicker of determination surged within her, filling her with a new kind of energy as she thrust her palms outward. She envisioned the shadows as her own struggles, twisted pieces of her past that had once defined her. Enough! She shouted, and with a surge of willpower, she pulled the darkness toward her. A magnetic field formed, and the shadows, torn between hunger and confusion, hesitated. The gatekeeper roared, its frustration palpable. Surrender. Sacrifice. That is the way. But Sarah remained undeterred. She dug deeper, summoning fortitude from every scar, carrying the massive weight of every wound etched upon her soul. It was time to take back control as the darkness swept towards her. She closed her eyes, allowing its cold embrace to envelop her. Instead of fighting, she felt the pull, the connection, and the pain drip away like melting ice. The shadows flowed into her light, weaving together, melding into a harmonious glow. Do it, Sarah. Finish it. The girl encouraged, her voice a pulse against the throb of the chaos. Waves of light exploded again, bright and fervent, illuminating every corner of the darkened realm. The shadows began to vibrate, caught in the swirl of transformation. They screamed, yet their cries slowly morphed from anguish to something resembling liberation. Sarah opened her eyes. The darkness refracted off her skin, shimmering like fractured glass. She was both the keeper and the freed. The power inside her surged, raw and vivacious. This ends now. And with that declaration, she unleashed a blinding beam of energy aimed straight at the gatekeeper. The air shimmered with heat as the shadows screamed, bucking wildly. The world trembled beneath them as the light consumed the darkness, the remnants swirling like autumn leaves caught in a tempest. And just as the last of the gatekeeper began to dissolve, a blaring alarm echoed outside their realm, deafening, panicked. What is happening? Sarah shouted, startled. The girl shook her head, worry etched on her face. That sound is the notification the others are in danger. Heat radiated from where the remnants of the darkness lay, dimming into colored sparks. Sarah's stomach dropped, and she steadied herself as she fought to grasp the whole picture. If they're in danger, what have I done? As the world around her faded into whispers of light and shadow, one question remained piercing through. Would they race back to rescue those she cared about, or would they face a darker reality brewing on the horizon? This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The blaring alarm roared like a lion, shaking Sarah from her thoughts. She glanced around, her heart racing, the urgency of the moment stark against the shimmering backdrop of the fading chaos. Where are they? She demanded. The girl's eyes darted back towards the swirling remnants of the darkness. They're outside. We need to go now. Fueled by fear, Sarah felt the raw energy coursing through her veins. The shadows had transformed into light, but that didn't mean danger had vanished. Just as she began to push forward, the ground beneath her feet trembled, a low growl rumbling in response. Sarah's hand shot out, steadying herself. Wait! She shouted, looking back at the girl with wide eyes. What if the gatekeeper's not gone for good? If it could come back, there's no time to think about that. The girl interrupted, determination drowning out her fear. We have to help them. Without another word, they plunged into the radiant chaos and pushed through the veil of light, emerging into a world dimmer, heavier. The air tasted electric, tense with unspoken dangers. Sarah squinted, searching for any sign of her friends. The alarm blared on, a frantic wail echoed in the distance, a warning, a cry for help. Where are you? She called out, desperation slipping into her voice. Suddenly, a series of bursts erupted from the shadows ahead. Figures darted in and out, silhouettes clashing in a chaotic dance of light and dark. Sarah's heart leaped into her throat. Were those her friends fighting? Had they been drawn into this nightmare too? Then she saw him, Zach, moving fast yet stumbling, fear searing his features. He was trapped against a wall of shimmering darkness. Eyes round with terror, he turned to her. Sarah! Help! Every instinct surged inside her, but before she could respond, the ground shook violently. An unseen force ripped through the air, throwing debris and shadows in every direction. Get to him! The girl urged, her voice trembling as she grasped Sarah's wrist. I'll create a barrier. Sarah nodded, instinct kicking in. She focused hard, slipping back into the rhythm of that pulled energy. Just hold on, she shouted. The girl positioned herself, hands outstretched, summoning a shimmering shield. Sarah sprinted through the turmoil, dodging the erratic wails and flashes of darkness. Behind her, she could hear the girl chanting powerful words, invoking protection. Each echo merged with her intent, fueling her momentum. Zach's face contorted in desperation as shadows loomed larger. Hurry! Almost there. Dark tendrils whipped dangerously, seeking to entrap her. Sarah could feel the cold gnashing against her skin, icy fingers reaching for her heart. Gripping onto her fighting spirit, she dodged, ducked, and bounded ahead, every instinct biologically tuned to survival. Just as she reached Zach, a dark mass erupted from the shadows, lunging towards them both. Sarah, no! He screamed, eyes wide with horror. Now! She cried back, throwing her arms around him. She could feel the energy between them, the warmth of connection igniting like a flame. With every ounce of willpower, she pulled him into her light, feeling the surge building, and that instant, the girl unleashed her barrier. Bright, radiant light flowed forth, sweeping aside the darkness as the swirling shadows recoiled. It was more than just light. It was the culmination of their collective powers, unity against despair. But the shadows were not finished. Sarah could see new forms rising from the depths, monstrous shapes twisting and writhing, pushing against the light. They were hungry, angrier than before, drawn by the scent of fear. What are those things? Zach gasped, eyes darting, panic rising once again. More! The girl shouted as Sarah turned back, her voice trembling. We need to find a way to banish them together. And just as hope swelled inside her, a shocking realization hit Sarah. The connection she felt wasn't just a bond, it was something more. Something that could turn the tide, or unleash a greater darkness. Zach, she began, but was cut off by an explosion of shadow that ignited the air. Around them, darkness blinding her vision. When the chaos receded, she blinked hard, trying to adjust. Had they momentarily won? Or was something far more perilous creeping into focus? In the heart of the turmoil, a piercing whisper echoed at the edges of her consciousness, a haunting voice laced with malicious glee. You thought you could contain us? This is only the beginning. Sarah trembled as dread coiled in her stomach. They needed answers fast, or a far greater evil would consume them all. What awaited them next, victory or annihilation? Would the truth help them or seal their fate? The revelation lingered, palpable, just out of reach. The world felt like it was spun from raw chaos. The shadows still flickered like restless spirits, their wicked whispers mingling with the adrenaline pumping through Sarah's veins. She shook her head, trying to clear her thoughts. We can't just stand here. Her voice rang out, urgent and determined. Zach stood frozen, caught between fear and confusion. What do we do? He looked at Sarah, his eyes glistening with unshed tears, a mixture of hope and despair. The girl beside them clenched her fists, summoning every last ounce of her strength. We fight. We have to push back against the darkness. Sarah felt the words ignite something deep within her, a flicker of leadership. Okay. She turned to Zach, a fierce glint in her eye. Reach out to the girl. We need to combine our powers. If we're stronger together, we can banish them. Gritting his teeth, Zach nodded. He focused on the girl, and as their gazes locked, a surge of energy pulsed between them, a golden light sparking to life. It felt as if their fear transformed into something tangible, weaving into a beautiful, defiant shield. Now! The girl shouted, throwing her hands into the air, channeling their combined energies like a conductor commanding an orchestra. Sarah could feel the warmth enveloping them, but the shadows writhed violently in response. The dark forms shifted, hungry and relentless, and Sarah could sense their desperation. "Keep it steady," she urged, feeling the balance wavering. The air crackled with tension, an electric charge that heralded an enormous clash between light and dark. Just as the shadows lunged, a piercing scream shattered the air, reverberating through the chaos. It was familiar, a cry of pure anguish. "No," Sarah gasped, recognizing it instantly. It was Emma, trapped somewhere in the turmoil. "Emma!" Zach shouted, fear turning his voice ragged. "We have to help her. Focus." The girl snapped, but Sarah could see the tremor in her stance. The darkness was growing bolder. It sensed their distraction. "Wait, where is she?" Sarah couldn't think straight. Memories flooded back, laughter, late-night talks, promises made in silence. "She's out there. Don't let the shadows take your mind." The girl's words fought against the rising panic, but Sarah felt herself slipping. With every heartbeat, the shadows clawed at her resolve, whispering doubts that echoed louder than Emma's cries. But then, amidst the billowing shadows, a flicker caught Sarah's eye. There, in the pulsating dark, she could see a figure struggling against the tide. As if summoned by Sarah's thoughts, Emma appeared, her face pale but fierce, fighting to stay upright against the onslaught. "Get away from her!" Sarah shouted, her voice cutting like a knife through the chaos. But as she took a step forward, an unseen force thrust against her, knocking her to the ground. Zach and the girl stumbled as well, and Sarah's heart dropped. "No, we're losing it." She could feel the shadows encroaching, palpable and suffocating. Fear surged like a tidal wave, clawing at her throat. With every ounce of will, Sarah gritted her teeth and pushed back against the dark. She couldn't let it win. "Together," she roared, rallying. "We can't give in. We need to find Emma and fight this off." Zach's eyes locked onto hers, determination igniting the depths of his panic. "Right." He reached for the girl, their collective energy swirling between them, but the shadows tightened around them. They were desperate, relentless. The voices in the dark grew louder, swirling into a cacophony of curses and promises of despair. "This is only the beginning," the haunting whisper echoed again, chilling Sarah to her core. Yet, through the chaos, she felt something else, a flicker of understanding. What if we can turn their own fear against them? She realized. Zach blinked, curiosity sparking. "You mean use their strength against themselves?" "Yes," Sarah gasped. "If they feed on fear, we need to stand firm. No more doubt. We need to channel everything we've got." As they steeled themselves, new figures emerged from the shadows, twisted versions of familiar faces. Laughing mockingly, Sarah's heart raced, but amidst the dread, one truth blossomed: if they were to face this horror, they needed to grasp the connection they held tightly. Together. Right now, Sarah shouted. She could feel the combined energy pulsing through her fingertips, designed to push against the tide. The shadows lunged, but this time she would not back down. And as their power surged once more, the shadows roared, rallying against the light with hungry fury. Would they break through? Or would this be the moment that defined their fate forever? The answer was looming, dark and potent. Would they conquer fear or become yet another whisper in the night? The darkness roared in response to their call, and Sarah felt its weight press down on her shoulders like a 100-ton boulder. The twisted figures set the shadows alight with their laughter, a sound that dripped with malice. Each chuckle resonated deep in her bones, stealing her breath momentarily. But she wasn't about to let that hold her back. "Stay focused," Sarah screamed, her voice a thread of clarity in a storm of chaos. Zach held tighter to the energy they were weaving, palms sweating, heart pounding. "I won't let go. We can do this." His resolve brought a flicker of warmth to the cold fear wrapping around her. The girl next to him, her face a mix of determination and terror, spoke up with urgent conviction. "Draw from your memories. What makes you stronger? Think of it." Sarah closed her eyes, her mind racing. She conjured the flashes of laughter shared with Emma, the joyous stories, the late-night confessions, the dreams of the future. Those moments ignited a fire in her chest. Together, they linked their memories, feeling the energy shift, creating a pulsing rhythm that fought the shadows back. "Now!" she shouted. The combined strength propelled forward, a golden wave coursing through the darkness as it clashed violently with the figures that taunted them. Sarah could feel the pulse of hope deep within, battling against dread. The shadows screeched, their forms flickering like dying candle flames, but they pressed on relentlessly. Suddenly, the twisted facsimiles of their lives sprung closer, their mocking faces morphing into something more sinister. "You thought you could escape us?" One sneered, its voice dripping with scorn. "Your past will always haunt you." Each horrifying visage was an echo of every insecurity that had ever tormented them. Sarah's resolve shook as doubt seeped in, jeopardizing their fragile power. "No, I won't let you take her," she shouted, hands clenched into fists that vibrated with energy. "Channel it. All of it," the girl yelled, her voice fierce enough to slice through the agony. "Embrace the pain. It's what makes us who we are." With every ounce of strength they intensified their bond, the raw energy building until it felt tangible, like the air crackling before a storm. Sarah shouted Emma's name as though the sound alone could bridge their gap, reach her friend, save her from the clutches of despair. And then, without warning, a new figure tore through the shadows. A second Emma, her expression pure agony, twisted in confusion and fear. "Help!" she screamed, but the voice broke, echoing in a way that left a chill creeping down Sarah's spine. "Zach, is that?" Sarah's throat constricted. Panic reared its ugly head. "Think it is. But which one is real?" His eyes darted between the two versions, the uncertainty almost enough to drown them in fear. At that moment the shadows surged forward, determined to exploit their confusion. They launched their assault, wailing as they fanned out around the group, whispering poisonous temptations of despair, dark promises entwined with their voices. In spite of the fear, a sense of clarity emerged in Sarah's mind. "The real Emma would want us to choose," she cried out. "We don't back down. We trust each other." The words hung in the air as a palpable challenge. She knew that they needed to confront their deepest fears. Working together, they combined their strengths into an unbreakable bond, summoning the memory of the real Emma's unwavering spirit. Suddenly the real Emma, the one still wrapped in shadows, broke through, joining them, her energy intertwining with theirs. The dark influences began faltering, the laughter subsiding as light surged forward, breaking against the abyss like a wave crashing onto jagged rocks. But just as she began to lose her grip on the shadows, a horrible revelation struck Sarah, a chilling thought that turned her insides cold. What if they were fighting not just for Emma, but against something far worse? Something that could destroy them all? Could they actually survive this nightmare? Or was this just the beginning of an even darker, more twisted reality? The answer hovered just out of reach as they all faced the roaring shadows, every heartbeat thumping louder than the last, and the world teetered on the brink of collapse. The air crackled with impending doom as the shadows danced eagerly, reaching out with tendrils that thirsted for fear. Sarah's heart raced in rhythm with the chaos, her breath quickening like a runaway train. Everything depended on this moment. She felt the weight of her friends resting on her shoulders. "Enough is enough." A fierce shout echoed from deep within her. It resonated with the flame of connection she had found in Emma, Zach, and the girl, their shared experiences binding them. She wouldn't let fear strangle that bond, not now. "Focus on us," she shouted, eyes blazing with determination. "We are stronger together. Emma believes in us. Our memories are our weapons." Zach nodded, clarity replacing panic as they all grasped onto that flicker of hope. The shadows paused, hesitating only for a moment, as if unsure how to react to their collective will. "Channel everything," the girl urged from her position, pouring her energy into forming a stronger barrier. Lightning surged through Sarah as she closed her eyes, reaching deep within her spirit. She envisioned all the moments she treasured with Emma, the laughter, the trust, the promises. Her voice rose, powerful and unwavering, echoing among them. "We fight for each other. Together." The shadows snarled, their forms swirling with darker intensity as the twisted faces of their doubts materialized, flickering with taunts. "You can't escape your truth," they hissed, their voices lilting with malice. "You don't belong here." "No," Sarah shouted back, defiance flooding through her veins. She extended her hands, channeling her burgeoning light into a bright wave that cascaded through their united circle. "This is who we are. We define our path." An explosion of golden energy erupted outward. The surge pushed back against the encroaching darkness, filling the space with a dazzling glow that pushed the shadows into retreat. The tormentors writhed and howled, their forms disintegrating in the shimmering luminosity of their bond. But just as a sense of triumph ignited within her, another piercing scream cut through the air. Emma's voice. Help! Help me! Sarah's heart dropped, her resolve shaking. Don't let it distract us. Stay focused. The girl chimed in, weaving a shield to keep them anchored. Sprinting toward where Emma's cries came from, Sarah felt the energy pulsing from her fingertips. She could do this. We're coming. The world around them trembled as darkness bucked against their combined power. The shadows lunged forth, desperate to snatch them back, battering at Sarah's resolve. But she held on to the warmth of Emma's laughter, the way it felt to have a friend beside her in both light and dark. Zach, the girl. Don't let our connection break, she urged, watching as the shadows spiraled chaotically around them, threatening to divide their united front. Right, Zach grunted, forcing back against despair with newfound strength. Hold on. With a united shout, they thrust their energies forward. A radiant beam shot through the lingering shadows, illuminating the path like a lighthouse in a storm. The shadows convulsed, swirling away from the radiant light. Sarah's heart surged with adrenaline and hope as they emerged into a clearing. The vibrant energy extended toward the writhing echoes of Emma within the darkness. The trapped form of her friend shimmered, caught in disarray between timelines and realities, fingers reaching toward the light. Fight back, Sarah called, channeling her love and friendship into the faint outline of Emma. Remember who you are. With those words, the shadows surrounding Emma recoiled, releasing their grip. The true form of Emma glinted forward, eyes alight with clarity. Sarah, she gasped, her shape breaking free as light burst around her. Just as they embraced, a roar echoed through the realm, a guttural growl from the shadows pooling together. But Sarah, with all her friends bolstered beside her, stood strong. No more, she declared, raising her hands in defiance. They felt lighter, more grounded, ready to face whatever darkness remained. In that final moment, as Sarah, Zach, and the girl gathered their energy, the collective flames roared high into the sky, beckoning a final showdown. The shadows lunged one last time, but this time they wouldn't falter. Fate belongs to us, they shouted in unison, light erupting from their fingertips like an overwhelming torrent, washing over the shadows with a fierce brilliance. The darkness screamed, shrieked, and then finally dissipated, revealing a newfound dawn breaking over the horizon. Breathless and awash in relief, Sarah turned to her friends. Did we do it? Emma smiled, the warmth of friendship filling the air between them, incandescent and real. We did, she replied, her voice steady, bright with determination. And as Sarah looked around, taking in the vibrant world they had reclaimed together, she felt a powerful shift within. Whatever shadows lurked, they would face them, not alone but united, each a vital thread in the tapestry of their existence. They turned towards the rising sun, embracing the light ahead as the dawn glimmered with infinite possibilities. If you want to be part of more thrilling tales, you need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next chapter. The time is now. Smash that like button. Come on, show your support and feed the algorithm. Don't forget to flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this mind-blowing conclusion. Seriously, what did you think? And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let's connect and spread the energy of hope together.